Thanks once again for joining us this evening on KTN Weekend Prime. Our sign language interpreter is William Silla. Let's begin with that story that now has the entire Kenyan nation talking. The embattled Cabinet Secretary for Devolution, Anne Waiguru, has stepped down after months of pressure over corruption allegations at her ministry. Waiguru said the personal attacks on her and her family over what happened at her ministry have taken a toll on her health, making it necessary to ask to step down. And as KTN's associate editor Noah Otieno reports, one of her fiercest critics, Nandi Hills MP Alfred Keter, reacted by saying that his prayers have been answered.
On March 26th this year, Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta presented his so-called list of shame before Kenya's parliament. The nation was shocked. Within 5 days of the list of shame being presented in parliament, 5 cabinet secretaries had gone home. And today, a 6th devolution cabinet secretary, Anne Waiguru, has joined the list. That is 32% of the cabinet of 19.
I have therefore, following my doctor's advice, requested His Excellency the President to relieve me of the responsibilities of Cabinet Secretary, Devolution and Planning.
Since the revelations of fraud at the National Youth Service, where Waiguru confirmed at least 695 million shillings had been lost, there have been months of a sustained push for Anne Waiguru to resign. A good part of the pressure came from the opposition, who claimed she was enjoying special protection from the very top.
DCI is himself totally compromised in this matter. When he completed his initial investigations a few weeks ago, he went and submitted his report to Madam Anne Waiguru. How can the DCI submit his investigation report to the subject, to certain suspect?
Even where facts point to the culpability of other parties and my absolute non-involvement, the attacks have continued unabated. The fight against corruption eventually mutated into the fight against Anne Waiguru, with the focus shifting from the real purveyors of graft.
The latest scandal that seems to have broken her spirit was the procurement queries at the Devolution Ministry, where it is alleged that almost 8 billion shillings was used in overpriced tender items.
So on matters that have to do with procurement or finance have nothing to do with a cabinet secretary. We do not get involved. In fact, if I was to get involved at all in procurement, it would be regular.
The hours and the days that followed that tough stance were merciless on her.
A diabolical machinery has been applied incessantly by misinformed and mischievous parties to intimidate, harass, and discredit both my professional and personal integrity. Anything and everything has been fair game, including attacks on my children.
Waiguru says the onslaught on her character has made it unbearable to stay in office.
In view of the impact of these events have had on my health, I have been advised by my doctor, who's sitting next to me, to take time off, to recover, and to undertake much lighter duties for some time.
Among the first to react to her resignation was Alfred Keter, the Nandi Hills MP, who has just been gearing up for his third attempt to have Waiguru impeached.
Today is a very good day for most Kenyans because the Honorable CS, Anne Waiguru, has taken a bold step of resigning so that we allow the independent institutions to do investigations.
Davis Chirchir, Energy, Felix Koskei, Agriculture, Kazungu Kambi, Labor, Charity Ngilu, Lands, and Michael Kamau, Transport and Infrastructure, cabinet secretaries who went home smoothly after a surprise press conference at State House Nairobi on the 28th of March this year. But when scandal broke at the National Youth Service, which is under Anne Waiguru, things suddenly seemed to have stopped moving. This gave juicy fodder to Kenya's opposition, which blamed President Uhuru Kenyatta for protecting Anne Waiguru. Has President Uhuru Kenyatta finally taken the winds out of the sails of the Kenyan opposition? No, KTN News, Nairobi.
Of course, that long road to this day, 21st of November, has been one, as Noah Otieno described, that has been filled both with allegations of corruption and political mudslinging on either side. Let's take a look at some of the key dates in this timeline leading up until today. Of course, the 7th of June was when this debacle started with the CBK, with news of the CBK's questioning of questionable transactions at NYS. Of course, Anne Waiguru saying there that no money was lost, but on 19th June the tune changes slightly. She says that she stopped the transaction of 826 million shillings in terms of transactions, and that no money was lost. That allegation still staying, and of course carrying over to the 25th of July, when State House comes out to defend Anne Waiguru. Manoa Esipisu releasing a statement there, and it's coming up on the next board, saying that no money was lost again, alleging that there was someone who tried, or a number of people who tried to hack into the IFMIS system and make these transactions, but it was caught in time, and that the allegations being leveled against Anne Waiguru at that time were nothing but political mudslinging. But the plot, of course, would thicken. 11th September, Waiguru suspends 21 officials after a CID report that she had asked for, investigating what was going on at the NYS. And among the people who were interdicted at the time were Adan Halake, who later on it would come to be known was one of the people who stood in the way of some of these fraudulent transactions being made, allegedly at least. And of course, let's move now onwards to October the 27th, I believe, when the PAC began questioning 8 billion shillings worth of payments. And remember, those payments were rather infamous. 8,700 shillings for pens, 450,000 shillings for condom dispensers, 1.5 million shillings for a television that allegedly was in Anne Waiguru's office. She later denied this, and of course, evidence was shown that that wasn't in there. And then there were the sex toys that Peter Mangiti later on said were for sex education, and also giving a new register, a fresh register with what he said, he alleged, were the correct prices of the above mentioned items. For instance, a pen was going for 290 shillings according to him. The plot would thicken further on November the 3rd. The devolution PS, Peter Mangiti, as I had mentioned, says that that register was inaccurate. But on November the 5th, Anne Waiguru, after a meeting with the PAC, said that, as you saw in Noah Otieno's story, that she wouldn't resign, and some of the transactions and the signings on in terms of procurement were not made by her in person, and therefore she couldn't take responsibility for every single item that perhaps was transacted fraudulently. But this would keep going. Later on in November the 9th, she was questioned by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Of course, Nelson Githinji and Peter Mangiti also being questioned around that time. And on November the 16th, after that CID file that had investigated those 21 officers that were interdicted was handed over to the DPP, Keriako Tobiko decides that there is enough evidence to charge Peter Mangiti as well as the head of the NYS, Nelson Githinji. Beg your pardon, Nelson Githinji resigning, or rather stepping aside that same evening, and saying that his conscience is clear and that yet again this was political mudslinging. But of course that led up until today with the campaigns, including Alfred Keter as well as Raila Odinga, talking about the politics around this issue, alleging that Anne Waiguru was being protected by people at State House. Of course, those allegations yet to be proven. Anne Waiguru giving her own rebuttal to those same allegations. But this led up until today, November the 21st, 2015. Anne Waiguru throws in the towel, citing health concerns. Of course, this will form the basis of yet more political talk, it is likely. But what will happen at the devolution ministry, very interesting to note, considering that the amount of money that was said to have been lost has yet to be recovered. Now, an interesting story evolving out of corruption allegations across the country, and the government has been besieged by these kinds of corruption allegations, and one comes from an order that President Uhuru Kenyatta gave to the Attorney General. And now, in an effort to deter this corruption here in Kenya and make it less easy for people here in Kenya to steal and make it less rewarding rather. A multi-agency task force has recommended that all assets of persons suspended for corruption must be traced and frozen. The Attorney General says that the suspect's property will be sold on conviction and the proceeds surrendered to the state under the Assets Recovery Department. Now, in an exclusive interview with KTN News, the Attorney General, Professor Kisii Muigai, also disclosed that a fully constituted Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission will be in place in a fortnight. Patrick Amimo has more.
While receiving a report from an anti-corruption task force team headed by Attorney General Professor Kisii Muigai Friday, President Uhuru Kenyatta said the success of the fight against corruption will be measured by the size of property recovered and the number of corrupt individuals who are successfully prosecuted and sent to jail. The Attorney General says an independent asset recovery agency will soon be created to stop use of corruptly acquired assets in delaying or frustrating justice.
One of the weakest links in the fight against corruption in Kenya has been in asset recovery. We have identified that in our report. The President picked it up straight away and he said, look, corruption is thriving because people can be corrupt, take this money, stash it somewhere. So corruption is rewarding. We must stop it from being rewarding. And the one way to do it is, number one, the minute we arrest a suspect, we trace and we freeze all his assets. All. It is for him to explain himself. When he is convicted, we sell them. We attach and sell all the assets and put on it.
Professor Kisii expressed optimism about high-profile convictions for suspects of Golden Bag and Anglo-leasing scandals, courtesy of mutual legal assistance from the West.
As we speak next week, the chief Swiss federal prosecutor is coming here. We're going to spend 3 days with him. We are in contact with the American authorities over Anglo-leasing as well. We are in contact with the British. We are in contact with several other countries that say, we want to give you the material we heard. So we are in a very good space. I think you will be able to see some convictions very soon in some very, very big cases.
The nose is also closing for the corrupt who stash loot in offshore accounts.
Jersey is one country. We are very, very willing, and they have expressed the wish that money should be returned. We have money in Switzerland. We are trying to work out the modalities of getting that money back. And we have money in other jurisdictions.
The Anti-Corruption Task Force proposes that corruption cases should be handled at the High Court level to improve efficiency and speed up corruption cases.
We want, in the medium term, to make corruption an offense triable by the High Court only. And the consequence of that is, if you have an application relating to a constitutional question, you will raise it within the court that is trying you. And we hope, alongside the order, that every case must proceed day to day until finalization.
On Friday, the President forwarded to the National Assembly fresh names of anti-corruption commissioners for debate and approval.
On Tuesday, they will be laid on the floor. They will be laid on the floor of the House, and I think in 2 weeks' time, the commission will be fully constituted with new, fresh commissioners, with a new, fresh mandate.
The task force report also recommends an integrity code of conduct for Parliament to win corruption among legislators.
You know, and I know, and it's been reported widely about rent seeking in respect of this committee or that committee. If you don't do this, this will happen. That in itself is a dangerous form of corruption, an extremely dangerous form of corruption. And we have recommended that we must begin the fight in Parliament by creating a serious code.
The government has also enjoined the private sector in the graft war.
The men with briefcases moving from office to office, offering public servants cash, whenever there is a prosecution, they are not prosecuted. Sometimes, if at all, they are witnesses. And then they go to their next corrupt transaction and so on. And the president is saying, why don't we have a legal process that catches the giver and the taker and punishes both? And this is the conversation partly we are having with the private sector. And they have drawn up their own bill, which is the equivalent of the American Corrupt Foreign Practices Act.
Patrick Abimo, KTN News.
Now, as Kenya digests the intense debate which took place yesterday on Kenya's attempts to save Deputy President William Ruto from the ICC, Mombasa Senator Hassan Omar has dismissed as a total waste of money the expenditure on a Hague delegation. The senator claimed the executive and parliament used over 100 million shillings to fund a trip to the Hague's Assembly of State Parties Summit.
Or did not do could have been achieved by fewer members going there. The numbers don't necessarily persuade. You know, you don't think you can now continue to transfer the type of political culture and hooliganism that we see here into an international stage. It is the content of the area issues that you have articulated. So a delegation costing us 100 million shillings, financed by the executive and parliament, it was of no consequence for as long as the content of the message.
Welcome back to KTN Weekend Prime. Now, hundreds of commercial sex workers arrested in a raid in Kenya's Kisii County last night have claimed they were forcefully tested for HIV. The joint raid between the Kisii police officers and officers from Kisii County government has kicked up a storm amongst human rights defenders. KTN's Fred Moturi reports.
The girls were arrested in the streets and brothels within the town, and they were later taken to the Kisii Teaching and Referral Hospital, where they got tested for sexually transmitted infections.
It is illegal for someone to be subjected to HIV tests since it is against the HIV Act.
It was noted that some of these women were not fully mature psychologically and emotionally, while some were under the age of 15.
Natafutia watoto wangu, sina mwanisha, sina wazazi. Mnataka nifanye aje? Kama ni kazi mnitafutia nifanye nitoke town.
We are having a situation where we have over 500 kids on the streets of Kisii town. The kids are all over the place. So we are having a bad situation.
The figures from the referral hospital further indicate that out of the clandestine abortions recorded, 394 of the girls are twilight girls who aborted a second time, and some did it for the third time, while others do not want to reveal.
In the last 1 year, between May 2014 and May 2015, we have seen a total of about 682 cases of abortions that are complete, either complete or incomplete abortions.
On his part, the Kisii County Director of Medical Services, Dr. Geoffrey Otomu, said that it's unfortunate that the HIV prevalence in the county is on the rise, yet most of the young people still engage in unprotected sex.
Shida ndio imetuleta kwa street. Si ati tumekuja kufanya raha huko, tumekuja kutafutia watoto bwana. Tuko na watoto.
A projection from statistics done in different hospitals indicated that 4% of women of reproductive age group of between 15 and 40 years are most affected, where the county records 5% of new infections in a week.
Watoto wetu wako kwa nyumba wanateseka. Kuna watoto wanasoma kama wanajilipia. Hata watoto wanasoma wanajilipia.
At least 73,000 Kisii County residents are living with the virus, where more than 600 newborn babies are infected annually, while the county records 5,480 new infections annually, but only 15% are accessing medical services.
Sasa hata nyumba tunafungiwa na wao wanataka kutufukuza town, wanataka tuende wapi, watutafutie biashara.
Lakini ndio leo na mwanaume tukashindana na yeye. Alikuwa ananigonga kila usiku na mchana.
Wasasi wakae pamoja na watoto wao kwa meza. Wazazi wengi hawakai na watoto wao kwa meza na kuambia ya kwamba kuna ugonjwa wa ukimwi, kuna magonjwa ya kansa ambayo yameletwa kupitia kwa usherati.
Kisii County is listed alongside Nairobi, Kisumu, Homa Bay, Mombasa and Siaya counties, which are hardest hit by AIDS epidemic. The HIV prevalence in Kisii is beyond medical practice, and abortion among its young girls makes them think they've just avoided one major problem. But it creates many others, since these girls don't play safe sex too. Fred Muturi, KTN News, Kisii.
Welcome back. Kenya's Mwingi North Member of Parliament, John Munuve, was beaten up alongside his supporters and chased out of a Wiper Party fundraiser. Those who attacked Munuve claim that he has turned himself into a Jubilee mole by always inviting Jubilee leaders to insult Wiper leader, former Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka, in his own backyard. The drama at Ngomeni Market in Kiuso Sub-County, Mwingi North, began when Kalonzo Musyoka stood up to address the gathering and dared Wiper rebels to consider resigning and officially joining Jubilee. A group of men started shouting at the Mwingi North MP and his supporters, triggering a wave of violence. The legislator's bodyguard was forced to whip out a pistol and fire in the air to save the MP.
We had a difficult time because Kalonzo and Mudama hired goons from Mwingi who did not come from my constituency, Kitui and Machakos. It's really unfortunate, but I think one telling thing is the fact that a Kenya ruled by Kalonzo would be chaotic.
Nani wanaweza kusimamisha mkutano anywhere in this country ambao Kalonzo ama viongozi wengine ambao wajulikana wa CORD wanaenda wajue ni ndoto.
Welcome back. The 2015 Kenya Cup season got underway today, where several matches were lined up. And in the opening match, Strathmore Leos thrashed Mean Machine 56-0 at the Impala grounds, while Kenya Harlequins saw off Impala 29-22.
The Kenya Cup rugby season kicked off today with 7 matches taking place in different venues. The opening match saw Strathmore Leos take on Mean Machine, and they started brightly with 2 tries from Ginton Adongo and successful conversions by Humphrey Owora, helping them to a 29-0 lead in the first half. In the second half, Strathmore picked up from where they had left. Tries from Eugene Zioka and Cyprian Kuto put the game beyond Mean Machine's reach. Strathmore went on to win the match by 56 points to 0.
6-0 is no mean feat. I think we'll go with the points and put our best foot forward for next weekend's game.
Impala hosted Harlequins in the Gong Road Derby in the late kickoff. Kevin Keegan converted Tony Mutai's try to give Harlequins an early lead, but Impala replied immediately with Jojo Koa's penalty, followed by double tries from Kevin Ochano and Eric Kere. Kevin Keegan then restored Harlequins' lead when he converted 2 penalties deep into the second half. Queens hung on to win the match by 29 points to 22. In other matches, KCB thrashed Thika 62-0, while Nondis managed a 20-12 victory over Homeboys. Abdullah Ahmed, KTN Sports.
In athletics, one of Kenya's biggest and disgraced athletes management companies, Rosa and Associates, has absolved itself from strong doping accusations in athletics and has instead blamed its former coach whose athletes were banned. Top marathoner Rita Jeptor, road race athlete Matthew Kisorio, and Africa Championship 800 meters bronze medalist Agatha Jeruto are the 3 of the elite athletes who failed a doping test and were coached by former Rosa's coach Claudio Bardadelli. According to Dr. Rosa, his firm has managed and coached Kenyan athletes for the past 25 years, some of whom have broken records long before the camp was accused of doping in 2012.
The problem of Kenya is that there are some on the ground, some medical doctors, some person that try to push the young, and not only the young, to try to do doping. Our position that we are completely clean, association know, everybody in the world know. I am coach for 55 years, I never ever one situation of doping. What happened in this training camp in Kassavet, for me, is not a clear situation. I don't know. I think that we are not involved in this kind of situation. Sure, not involved.
A number of elite athletes are expected to grace this year's edition of the EABL Foundation's 10-kilometer environment run, slated for December the 5th. That run is part of EABL's 10-year anniversary commemoration, which aims to raise 5 million shillings for this year and for the care and management of the Karura Forest Conservancy. The event intends to drive awareness around the need for a sustainable model for environmental conservation. Wilfred Bungay, Henry Wanyoike and Douglas Wakihuri are among the retired athletes that are also expected to grace the occasion.
I want to really officially say that we are launching, as a government, together with East African Breweries, the Karura Run, East African Breweries Limited Karura Run on 5th of December, and we want to call upon all Nairobians and even all Kenyans who will be walking or even visiting Nairobi to take 1 or 2 hours just to come to Karura, enjoy the serenity of this environment, run for conservation and run for water, which is life.
With more Team Do.
No longer, because I bought Mortein Doom Power Guard, which kills 100% mosquitoes. Mortein Doom Power Guard kills 100% mosquitoes.
John Allen Namu, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Remember, you can catch more news on News Center, on KTN News, as well as current affairs programs, insightful ones at that. But on KTN Home, the Lotto program is up next. Have a great night ahead. See you tomorrow, where Yvonne Okara joins me for Checkpoint.